So we've learned how to move stuff around the screen. We've got our objects pretty well animated. Sort of, we're getting the hang of how to make all that stuff happen in the timeline. So now it's just really a matter of setting up the rest of what you're supposed to do for this project and making it happen. So if you look at my timeline, right now I have a 2-minute and 15-second timeline, which is probably too long, right? I'm not sure I really want to make that happen. We only need a 30-second project for this. So what we want to do here is we want to go up to composition. We want to go to composition settings. Again, this thing here, this timeline we're editing is a composition, and it's full of different pieces of footage that we've dumped into it. So if you go up here to composition settings, you can actually change the duration. So down here where it says duration, we're going to want to put a 0 in there. We're going to want to go 30 seconds. So you want to get used to seeing a timeline like this. This is minutes, this is seconds, this is like fractions or frames of second. And just click OK. So now I just have a 30-second timeline, which helps me know how much stuff I have to do to fill up the time, right? So, so your thing you're supposed to do now is you're supposed to take this little piece of footage and you're supposed to add something else to it, some other things to it to make it interesting, using good elements and principles of design and good composition, something that interesting and exciting to happen to it. So what we want to do is we want to figure out, well, how do we add some new stuff? So again, I like to lock layers off so that I'm not confused, I'm not accidentally grabbing the wrong one. So you click that little lock button there. And then we're just going to make a new layer, and let's go up to layer, new, and let's go to a shape layer. And so you can see the shape layers just have a little different color to them. And I can create a shape in this just like I do in Photoshop or anything else, where I just kind of click on that and create a shape, and then I can adjust the stroke and the fill. So right now I don't actually have a fill color selected, but let's say I select that color right there. I can go into the stroke and you know, I can select I could cancel that, and I can go stroke here and just say no stroke on it if I want, or I can do a gradient. There's all kinds of stuff you can choose in there. So now I just have this shape that's just sort of sitting here in the middle of this, in the middle of my image, right? But what I can do is I can grab that shape and I can keyframe it just like I did, just like I've done before, right? So again, to keyframe and make stuff move, I would need to go down here to make sure I have the content selected, and I want to go down to transform, and I want to go to position. And so that's where the position of this one is first, and then let's say I want to move that square across there real slow. There's my first keyframe, second keyframe. So now if I play this thing over, it's going to move that square across the screen real slow, and again I can speed that up if I want just by clicking that, and then now it's going to move much faster than it did before. And it's just all about the timing that you choose to set up for that. So okay, I got a square. Great, very fun. If I want to, I can just again lock that off, close the twirl down. It always helps me to keep things organized. Make a new layer, make another shape layer, and this time I'll draw like a custom shape. So I'll come up here to the pen tool, and I'll just draw like kind of a custom weird looking shape like that one. So now I have my other shape. If I want to name this, I can just double click on it or click fast on it, and I can actually go in there and change. Let's go down here to rename, and so weird shape. There you go. So now it's just sitting there again, but if I want, I can change the properties of that weird shape. So I can just select it with the black arrow tool, and let's say I want to turn this into, instead of a I'll do more of like a, let's do like kind of a purplish blue color. Okay. So now if I scroll through this, you can see that one layer is on top of the other one. So this weird shape is on top of the red square, and I can change that. You know, I can play around with it as much as I want to. So I can make this shape sort of move through the landscape as well. So again, I would just click the twirl down here, click transform, go to position, pick where I want to end, and drag it crossed, and those two things will cross one another, right? And so, you know, there's no end. You can add as many shapes as you want to. You can make stuff come and go. Maybe one of the interesting things that I could do here is I could change the opacity of this, so I could make the purple one a little bit less sort of opaque, so that it lets some of the red one show through. I could also go the other way. One other thing I could do is I could keyframe it, so I could make the opacity, just click on the stopwatch here. I can make the opacity really low as it comes across. So say 20, and then as it comes across, it's going to get more and more dark and opaque as it gets to that point, and then I could fade it out again if I wanted to, right? So I get to here, and I'll just crank that opacity back. So now it gets darker as it gets closer, and then it gets more and more opaque, and then it gets more and more less. It gets more transparent as it goes through. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can try with this. Again, if we want, we can go in here to this particular object, click Control or Modifier there, and then go to blending modes, and I could choose a blending mode that maybe did something interesting. So if I wanted to, I could go with color burn, and that's going to change the way that those two things go over the top of each other. But you can see that it's doing something weird where the white bird layers were underneath. So what I probably am going to want to do is unlock my two shape layers and drag them underneath the birds, right? So now the birds stay on top, and they fly right over the top of all of that stuff, and they don't get covered up by it. I can add things as they go. So you just want to add stuff to your image. You just want to sort of see what you can do to change it. You know, if you go back up here to layer and you pick some of the other layers that are available to you, like you know, there's all these different things. Again, don't get too crazy if you don't want to. But you could also do something like add in another bit of footage. So let's say I wanted to add another piece of footage to my file. I could just click and drag that down there. And this piece of footage is not very long, but let's say I just wanted to make this one bird really huge. So when they get to this point, the big bird shows up here, and I can play with it. So you know, you can add background footage, you can add photographs, you could add anything you want to this that you think will make it look great and interesting and cool. When we come back in a minute, I'll show you how to do even more altering of things with time, and then also to change colors and stuff like that with the animation pieces that we have.